Hi, welcome to Inside Guelph. I'm your host, Trish Stevenson. Thanks for joining us on your roadmap to the Royal City. It is Thursday, September 19th, and we have a great show for you today. Stephen Kraft is joining us with the Guelph Public Library Weekly Book Review. We have details of a community well-being initiative, and starting us off today, it's your city update with Mayor Farbridge. Thanks for being here, Mayor. Good to see you.
My pleasure, as always.
Always lovely to have you. It's always good to just tap in right to the source of what's going on in the city.
Yeah.
You wanted to start off, you just came from a lovely service, you were saying.
Yeah, there was a lovely service this week for an individual who died 73 years ago, Theodore Bates. And he was an airman. He had enlisted for the war, and he was up training, and his plane went down on a search and rescue in the Muskoka area, and with another plane as well, so 4 went down. And I first learned about this story when a group of individuals from the Muskoka area who their goal is to raise awareness around some of the airmen that lost their lives during training missions and in this case a search and rescue mission. And they never lost hope of finding the plane and to bring the 2 airmen back home. And the brother, Tom Bates, who's a Guelph resident, long-term Guelph resident, also hadn't lost hope. And actually Guelph City Council was so moved by their story that we actually contributed some funds towards the search. And that was a number of years ago. It was probably at least 7 or 8 years ago. And
They're
so all
still
this
searching.
And so all this time they have been searching and finally thought that they found the plane, and the OPP underwater group came in, and a search group, and they were able to find the plane, and they were able to bring Tom Bates back to Guelph. And so this week was a military ceremony to finally bring him back home and to inter him at Woodlawn Memorial Park. And his flight mate, who was actually from England, their family decided to bury him next door to Tom Bates. So both were interned
that's
this
lovely.
week. Yeah.
And did you get to chat with some of the family about what that meant after such a long time?
Yeah, and especially his brother Tom. This had been really important to him.
Yes.
And they have many family members that are buried in the cemeteries. And long-term Guelph residents. So I think it was he's in his 90s now, the brother, and so I think it was a real closure for him.
How old was the pilot and the co-pilot?
Well, it was in 1940, so they would have been quite young. They were young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's lovely. They didn't give
up.
So
it's a nice story of closure, and it was a lovely day, and it was a lovely service and ceremony that was put on.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
And that Guelph connection. Yeah. And then you want to switch gears talking about an adopt-a-tree?
Yeah, there's lots of, September and the fall is such a busy time, and one of the things we've got is adopt-a-tree. So our staff, this is at least the second year we've had this funding it's the TD Environment Fund and Trees Canada. And our staff have applied for funding, and so we were successful in getting a $15,000 grant, and then we matched it as well. So that's allowed us to provide 300 trees to our residents. So it was first come, first serve, and as usual, our community has stepped up and planting trees. Really important for so many reasons. We want to make sure that we continue to not just protect the urban forest that we have, but grow the urban forest, because we have a goal of 40% canopy, and we're about 20% right now. And we know there's a lot of stresses on our urban canopy. We've got the emerald ash borer, which is going to pretty much devastate to some degree our ash population in the city. Climate change is having an impact on certain trees that are putting them under more stress, and you get more insects coming in that are hard on trees. So, and there's so many benefits to them. There's the cooling benefit, so keeps the urban environment a little bit cooler. we know people are really connected to trees in a really fundamental way, and lots of study about that, and even children doing better in school if they can see trees outside of their window.
Well, they say that pine forest reboots people's brains. So taking a child into a forest to reboot their brain even.
So
you need it.
So it's
and oxygen. You need to.
So there's there's so many benefits to having a good, strong urban forest, and so we have an urban forest master plan, and we're working forward on its implementation. But we definitely need partnerships with the community, and we have lots of groups, Trees for Guelph, the Rotary Club of Guelph, number of scouts, lots of groups do a lot of tree planting in the community, as well as our residents, and so that's a big part of it.
Brilliant. And you're saying we could even use more. I mean, if we're going from 20% to 40%, that's where we want
need
some
to
growth.
Plant a lot of trees. I remember going to a presentation a couple of years ago, and it was sort of talking about some of the pressures, and it was plant trees, the right ones, and plant them now. So,
very clear. Very clear. And in the fall, you say, speaking of fall, as we gear up, we're ramping up. We have the farmers market. You want to also just draw some attention to.
We moved the farmers market back in, and everyone seems to be settled and pleased with the renewed interior, particularly the floor. And it almost feels like there's a little bit of a give to the floor as well, which is nice for vendors who are having to stand for several hours in one place. So, but everyone seems to be pleased. So it's our ongoing commitment to
business as usual.
Yes, and but it has opened the conversation up, not only to how important the market is to the community, but also the downtown. But also the interest is growing, and how might we be able to find more space for the market? So I think as in the next couple of years, we're going to be having that conversation of what might that look like? What does the community want to see? So.
And it's a key word you keep using, is the community. It really is a conversation between the city and the community, probably constantly. Which is what our next segment will be all about too, as you know very well, it's the Community Wellbeing Initiative that you're just as much in that conversation with. So the mayor always wants to be in conversation as well with your blog. You're very transparent and put the information out there.
I have a story, a little bit more of the story of Tom Bates.
On there?
Theodore Bates, sorry, his brother's Tom Bates, on my blog. So
okay. I thought you were about to tell it then. I was like, we're cutting her off.
No.
We're cutting her off. Okay, we'll go to the blog. Thank you so much for being here. Like I said, take it a short break, but when we get back, it's a Community Wellbeing Initiative. We'll see you in a minute.